Hello, BookTube. I've got a tiny bit of mail for you today on an absolutely gorgeous summer day here at the end of June. It's going to be warm today. Definitely warm, almost 90 degrees Fahrenheit, but still beautiful. Just absolutely beautiful. And I've got a tiny bit of mail because I don't have a large amount of mail. And I don't have a large amount of mail because I keep opening mail off camera, which is clearly unacceptable. So I managed to stop myself. So we've got a couple of packages we can look at. We've done a couple of package book mails before. I'm opening a lot of stuff off camera because I'm looking for one particular thing, but that's no excuse. So let's look at these two. We've got two packages here. Let's see what we have. See if it's anything squeal-worthy, anything that is really noteworthy for Steve. Let's see what's the first one. It's a finished copy of some kind. Oh, you've got to be kidding me. Oh, what a shame. Oh, that's a shame. This is not even a double, it's a triple. We have seen this 3 times before. This is When Among Crows by Veronica Roth. Tiny little novella, fantasy novel, modern fantasy. It's very nicely done, but we've seen it before. Terrible waste. A lot of the things I opened we hadn't seen before. Maybe I'll do some sort of a mail video, the new book video that doesn't have to do with opening the packages. But let's read about this just for the people who might have missed it the first 2 times. Pain is Dimitir's calling. His family is one in a long line of hunters who sacrifice their souls to slay monsters. Now he's tasked with a deadly mission. Find the legendary witch Baba Yaga. To reach her, Dimitir must ally with the ones he's sworn to kill. Pain is Allah's inheritance. A fear-eating Zmora with little left to lose, Allah awaits death from the curse she carries. When Dimitir offers her a cure in exchange for her help, she has no choice but to agree. Together they must fight against time and the wrath of the Chicago underworld. Bet you didn't see that coming. But Dimitir's secrets and his true motives may be the thing that actually destroys them. So, an hour's read of contemporary fantasy, but I already have 2 copies. So let's move right on to the next book here and see if this is a double too. This will be a bust as a mail haul. Well, if this is a double too, then I just won't upload the video. But let's see. On the chance that it isn't, let's see what we have here. Oh no. Okay, this is not a double. Oh, fantastic. All right, this comes out in November. Boy, oh boy, this is of interest. This is by Edwin Frank, and it's called Stranger Than Fiction, Lives of the 20th Century Novel. This is going to get reviewed everywhere, just everywhere. Let's see what we have to say here. Tragedy and Ancient Athens, Opera and the Late 19th Century, Streaming TV and 2020, sometimes an art form and a moment are just made for one another. And so it was with the novel and the 20th century. Do we agree with that? Not the 18th century? Well, the 19th century for me to take, but the 20th century. For over a decade, Edwin Frank, the legendary editor behind NYRB Classics, has been thinking about this particular pairing. A century of staggering transformation of world wars and revolutions, automobiles and the internet, votes for women and the threat of nuclear extinction, and the books that rose to meet it. Now, we're thrilled to share this advanced copy of Stranger Than Fiction, the story of the 20th century novel, of an exploding form in an exploding world. Oh, that's well done. That is well done. Told with the insight, urgency, and pure, propulsive pleasure of the very best fiction. We'll see about that. This book begins not at the stroke of midnight on January 1st, 1900, but in 1864 with Dostoevsky's Notes from the Underground. Dostoevsky, Frank tells us, was in a fix, financially, romantically, and otherwise. Working under immense strain, he conjured a narrator the likes of which had never before been seen in fiction, one whose voice, twitchy, self-undermining, never satisfied, would echo through the century to come. Okay, those of you who are familiar with classic novels, I'm sure that the exact same novel with the exact same narrator has come to your mind that came to mine. That predates the Notes from the Underground by quite a bit. But let's move on here. Thus, Frank raises the curtain on a time of unprecedented stress and near constant change, and on novelists who, confronted with circumstances that brought their form to its breaking point, responded by pushing it even further. As this book ranges from the famous to the little known and spans the globe and the century, we encounter books that are as startling and unforeseen, as radical and ambitious as the shifting world inhabited by their authors. Here is H.G. Wells' politically charged science fiction, Colette and Gide subversions of traditional gender roles, and Gertrude Stein's untethering of the American sentence. Here are Virginia Woolf and Robert Musil rebuilding on the ruins of World War I, Soseki and Achebe rupturing the European models of fiction, Vasily Grossman and Anna Banti reckoning with the unspeakable devastation. From America to Austerlitz, that's from Kafka to Sebald, D.H. Lawrence to Ralph Ellison, Frank tracks the novel through a time that was as dark as it was dazzling, showing us not only how it found its way, but how it became the form through which the century took its own measure. Okay, all right. Why are you naming these figures then? Why are you doing that? Why are you naming these figures? As opposed to all the figures that come to your mind when you think of 20th century fiction, none of whom have been mentioned, except maybe H.G. Wells. But when you think of Wells, you think of the 19th century. Let's move on here. If you know New York Review of Books, then you know that Frank, who founded the imprint 25 years ago this fall, is the only person who could have written this history. He is an editor with an unerring eye for the underappreciated and the overlooked. Yes, clearly from this pub sheet, but that is not this story. The story of the 20th century novel is not the story of the underappreciated and the overlooked. The story of a century taking account of itself through the mode of fiction, through the novel, is not the story of the underappreciated and unknown. Anyway, a natural critic who casts well-worn classics in a fresh light. In a book of incredible scope, he gives us precious intimacy, those electric moments of encounter between reader and text. Because first and foremost, Frank is himself a reader, for whom nothing is more thrilling than books that were written and, as he puts it, to make all of the difference in the world. Lolita and Magic Mountain, Enigma of Arrival and Good Morning Midnight, In Our Time and The End. In Stranger Than Fiction, he makes us feel that thrill. Okay. All right, that's great. That's what I want. Of course, that's what I want from any book, is to feel that thrill. Oh, you're all getting a thrill from the bean. Let's see here. Let's finish. Oh, this is going to be so much fun. No critic that I know is going to let this go. 32 novels form the focus of Stranger Than Fiction, and countless more are referenced and discussed in brief. I can't list them all here, but I've included a taste of what's in store for you on the reverse, along with additional early praise for the book. Just as Alex Ross dramatized the collision of classical music with the 20th century and The Rest Is Noise, pretty good book, it's a pretty good catch there to put that in parallel, Frank scores the novel's signal role in that time. We're very excited to hear what you think, and we'll look forward to... Okay, what do we have on the back here? Okay, so we've got advanced praise from Francine Prose, Elliot Weinberger, Joshua Cohen, and Kirkus. And let's see what books are mentioned. Oh, it's all the same ones that we've already heard. H.G. Wells, The Island of Dr. Moreau, Kafka, America, Gertrude Stein, Three Lives, Thomas Mann, Magic Mountain, Virginia Woolf, Mrs. Dalloway, and James Joyce's Ulysses, Chinua Achebe's The Things Fall Apart, and also Life, a User's Manual. So obviously with a book like this, you're going to disagree with a lot. You're going to disagree with a lot of what the author has to say. I'm perfectly okay with that. I wonder if there's a table of contents in this early edition. Oh, there is. Okay, and there's a lot of other things in here. I'm mainly curious to know, this author is the guy behind New York Review of Books Classics, and I've mentioned many times on this channel that although I'm very happy that they exist, I almost never agree with them. I'm almost never glad. I'm glad that they're out there reprinting books, and I'm glad they have an avid fan base. But they almost never reprint books that I want reprinted. So to put it mildly, I think his taste and mine do not overlap. and his approach and mine don't overlap. You are not seriously studying the 20th century novel if you're starting in 1867. There are two or three other clear starting points for the 20th century novel. If you're going all the way back to Dostoevsky, you are, as the kids say, flexing, and that underserves your subject. What else have we got in here? Soseki, Thomas Mann. Oh, Proust is in here. Virginia Woolf, Hemingway, Musil, D.H. Lawrence. Okay, all right. Oh, Vasily Grossman is in here, but so is Hans Nelsak. Lolita, of course, Ralph Ellison, Marquez. Margaret Yourcenar, Memoirs of Hadrian. Isn't that interesting? And V.S. Naipaul. Good Lord. How much did his estate have to pay to get him in this company? Okay. All right. Well, like I said, I'm not expecting to agree with this author on much. But I can't wait to dig into it. I will wait to dig into this. But boy, oh boy, what a feast. Oh my God, this is going to start so many conversations. And that's what I'm here for. I love that. Absolutely love that. Oh, this is great. Fantastic. All right. Well, a book about at least some 20th century fiction. This is naturally of signpost interest to me because I talk on this channel all the time, and I think a lot more than I talk about the post-war canon. It's not the whole 20th century. The first half of the 20th century, the literature of the first half of the 20th century has been studied to a fairly well. Could stand more study. Always, it can stand more study. But I have often thought about writing. I've read more books than Edwin Frank has. So when the pub sheet says that no one is better placed to write, no one can write this book but him, that's not true. I've read more, and I know people who've read more. But we don't run a reprint line, so he's perfectly placed to do it. I'll give him that. But aside from the first half of the 20th century, I've often said that the period I would like to look at is the last part of the American story, 1945 to 2025. That period right there, from the winning of World War II to the end of the American democratic experience. So a discrete period with bookends at both ends. What literature came out then, and what was it trying to do? Who wrote it? And more importantly for me, of course, more interest to me, who read it? I don't know of a book like that exists for that canon, to establish a canon for those years. I don't know that a book like that exists, and this will not be that. This is something else. I'm going to wait. It's going to be hard, because this is not, sometimes when I get an author in the mail and I disagree with them on X, Y, and Z, or from A to Z, I also think they're a fraud. This guy's not a fraud. He's a true believer. And I would point as evidence that I think that to all the mentions that I've made of New York Review of Classics on this channel going back 8 years. I have consistently said that I almost never like anything they reprint, but it shows an active mind. It shows someone actually picking things who cares about what they're picking. And I'm glad that those books are out there in the world. And this is a book by that mind. So I'm dying to read it. I will wait. I can't justify reading a November book. I don't think I can. I've already read one 2025 book, but I don't think I can justify reading this. We'll see. I may grow weak tonight. But there you go. This is now on your radar as well. Stranger Than Fiction. This comes out in November, and it is about novels that you know, that you've struggled with, that you've read, that you love. This is not about the classics. This is not about, it's not technical academic literary criticism. Instead, it's one very active-brained, ardent reader looking at signpost books. Oh my, this is going to get reviewed everywhere. Everybody's going to weigh in on this thing. But anyway, now you know that it's out there. Pre-order it. Pre-order it from your library. Pre-order a copy on Amazon. Put it in your basket or whatnot. Because this affects us all. This affects all. Everyone who's listening to me now is involved in these books. You have been in used bookstores and seen them. You have browsed your library shelves and seen them. Not all of them. This author has a sweet tooth for neglected authors. And I imagine that this author would say that there's no such thing as a justly neglected author, whereas I very much would. So you won't know all these names, probably, but you'll know a lot of them. I am so tempted to read the Proust bit tonight. Maybe I will dip in just a bit tonight. But anyway, that's the mail. Just 2 books, a mea culpa mail haul. We've a third arrival of this Veronica Roth thing. And then, oh my, a work of nonfiction that even those of you out there who don't particularly like nonfiction, you're not going to be able to resist it. You're not going to be able to. You've lived with these books. This is not Moll Flanders. You've lived with these books. Who of you picking up this thing? Regardless of whether your tastes are imperfect or whether or not they coincide with my own. When you're picking up this book, how are you going to be able to resist? If you look at the table of contents and you're thinking, that's a Steve book. That's a Steve book. Oh, Gabriel Garcia Marquez. Oh, I want to read that. Oh, Calvino. I want to read that. No matter who you are, no matter what you've read, you're going to find an author like that in here. So might as well put it on your list, put it on your radar. Oh, my. So that's the mail. It's very little mail, I know. It's not a great big pile. It's not a basket full. You're going to have to go to Jack Edwards for that. But it's mainly because I've been misbehaving. I did get one other piece of mail today. It is absolutely a cause for jubilation, but it is not a book. So I will wrap this up for now. I'm going to be taking things easy today. I am the villain. I am the Disney villain for the next 3 days because it's too hot for us to go on long, incredibly arduous walks. With my little bean, she'll be burning the pads of her feet and she'll be absolutely exhausted. She overheats. She overheated as a puppy a lot, and I thought, well, puppies are like that. All puppies are like that, and they grow out of it. But she never did grow out of it. She wilts in the heat. So our walks have to happen early, they have to happen late, and they have to be relatively curtailed. That won't be true. This air mass is moving out. We're going, despite the fact that we're heading into July, we're going back into a long stretch of periods where the daytime high temperature will be in the 70s Fahrenheit. That's perfectly fine for long walks, but not in the next few days. So I'll take it nice and easy. I've got lots of stuff to do and lots of distractions. This definitely now is added to the list of distractions. But anyway, I'll wrap this up for now, but I'll be back. Thank you, BookTube.